folks, it's Zach from Feel Free to Argue. And I don't want to be a complete downer all the time. And so one of the things that really impresses me, one of the things I'm always looking for when I'm reading news reports and reading articles are people who can transcend their situation, the immediate situation that they're in, and find a deeper meaning, a deeper understanding of the world around them. And I found two things just in the last couple of days that both fit under that category. The first thing I want to read you, and it's going to be two separate videos because they're first one is kind of short, but it's the other one is too long. So hopefully people will listen to both of these because I think they're both actually really compelling accounts. The first one is by a guy named, a journalist named Fares Akram in Gaza. And he recently lost his father to the Israelis. He wrote the following article about it. The phone call came around 4:20 p.m. on Saturday. A bomb had been dropped on the house at our small farm in northern Gaza. My father was walking from the gate to the farmhouse at the time. It was our beloved place. That farm and its two-story white house with a red roof. Nestled in a flat, fertile agricultural plain northwest of Beit Lahia, it had lemon groves, orange and apricot trees, and we'd recently acquired 60 dairy cows. It was the closest farm to the northern border with Israel. Ironically, we always thought the biggest danger there was not from Israeli troops, who usually went straight past if they were mounting an incursion, but from stray Hamas rockets aimed at the Israeli towns north of us. But shortly before sunset on Saturday, as Israeli ground troops and tanks invaded Gaza in the name of shutting down Hamas rocket sites, the peace of that place was shattered and my father's life extinguished at the age of 48. Warplanes and helicopters had swept in, bombing and firing to open the space for the tanks and ground forces that would follow in the darkness. It was one of those F-16 airstrikes that killed my father. The house was reduced to little more than powder, and of Dad there was nothing much left either. Just a pile of flesh, my uncle, who found him in the rubble, said later with brutal honesty. Like most Gazans, my mother, my sisters, and my wife, who was 9 months pregnant, and I have spent the past week of the Israeli onslaught trapped inside our flat in the city. But my father had decided to stay up at the farm. He knew it would be impossible to get back to tend the livestock if the expected troop invasion began. But he called us every day. The last time I saw him was on Thursday, when he brought cash in a bag of flour. We talked about the imminent birth of my first child and how we would get my wife, Allah, to the hospital amid the chaos and the bombing. Of course, on Saturday evening there was no hope of getting an ambulance up to the farm because the roads were cut off by the Israelis. So my uncle and brother drove the 8 kilometers and the rest of us sat in shock, shivering in the dark apartment, bed covers over us to keep warm, the sound of non-stop tank shelling around us. Deep down we all knew Dad was dead. He would have been in or near the house, and if an F-16 strikes directly at your house, you know what that means. They arrived to find a smoking pile of rubble. Most of the cows lay dead, others had run off injured. Mahmoud, a teenage relative, was with my father when the Israeli bomb smashed into the house. The force of the airstrike threw him 300 meters. They found Mahmoud's body in a neighbor's field. We buried my father and Mahmoud yesterday morning in a very quick funeral, knowing Israeli tanks were just 3 kilometers away on the outskirts of the city. We could hear the rattle of machine gun fire accompanying the tanks. The Israelis may say there were militants in the area of our farm, but I'll never believe it. The most advanced point for rocket launchers is 6 kilometers south. Up at the border, it is just open farmland with nowhere to hide. My father, Akram al-Ghul, was no militant. Born in Gaza and educated in Egypt, he was a lawyer and a judge who worked for the Palestinian Authority. After Hamas took over, he quit and turned to agriculture. Dad's father, Fares, who had been driven out of his home in what is now Israeli Ashkelon in 1948, had bought the land in the 1960s. During the Second Intifada and until the Israelis withdrew from Gaza in 2005, the farm was taken over by Israeli settlers, but after 2005, we went there every holiday. In Gaza, the only escape is the beach or, if you're lucky enough, the farmland. My father hated what Hamas was doing to Gaza's legal system, introducing Islamist justice, and he completely opposed violence. He would have worked hard for a just settlement with Israel and a better future for Palestinians. When the Palestinian Authority gained control over the West Bank, he moved to Ramallah to help establish the courts there. My grief carries no desire for revenge, which I know to be always in vain. But in truth, as a grieving son, I am finding it hard to distinguish between what the Israelis call terrorists and the Israeli pilots and tank crews who are invading Gaza. What is the difference between the pilot who blew my father to pieces and the militant who fires a small rocket? I have no answers, but just as I am about to become a father, I have lost my father.